Muito bem-vindos. Muito bem-vindos a todos. Agradecer muito às duas artistas aqui presentes. Agradecer muito ao Miguel Mesquita por teres aceito o nosso convite, aceito também para escrever no catálogo. Esta exposição vai ter no catálogo, que é uma grande e enorme alegria. E, portanto, temos a última semana de visita desta exposição e temos agora aqui um momento de introdução mais profunda aos trabalhos das artistas e àquilo que também as trouxe até aqui. E o Miguel vai ter a amabilidade de nos orientar nesta conversa. Muito bem-vindos à Brotéria e vamos aproveitar as duas artistas e do Miguel.
Well, so I'm not gonna take too much. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm not gonna take too much. Basically, this conversation starts from this exhibition that you can all see downstairs, called "It's the Scenery That Moves," and it was a challenge that they addressed Luísa to invite an artist from anywhere in the world that she could relate to start a dialogue and a point of view for the exhibition. And so I think it would be interesting to see a little bit the work of both artists and know a little bit of them. This conversation is also around the idea of body and nature and how nature and artistic creation can work together, which is something that we can see very well in some of the works that Isa is presenting us, but also in the works of Luísa that are, although they are very atmospheric, kind of always project some kind of landscape and that bring this kind of romantic, but also kind of a dream feeling that comes around and kind of embodies your paintings. So what I was going to propose is that we can start with Luísa, showing a little bit of her work, and then we'll move into Isa, and from there talk a little bit of the exhibition that you can see downstairs, and to talk a little bit of the experience of the work.
Yes, thank you, Miguel, for the introduction. Thank you very much to Brotéria for this very unusual invitation. So I was invited to think of a show here, and to think of any artist I would like to invite to show with me. I was very puzzled in the beginning. I had a few months where I put the idea for rest. I thought they were crazy. Then it was revealed, and I had, of course, many artists I would like, and I think sometimes these decisions are not fully rational. So I like the work of Luísa very much. I had no contact with Luísa at all. It was out of the admiration for Isa's work. Although I work mainly with painting, Isa is not a painter, or does not call her works usually paintings. But the themes, some of the way in which I read your works, of course, it might be other ones, where the culture humans build interacts with a given setting was so interesting, so wild and so well done that, well, for me it's really a pleasure to be with you, to get to know your work better, and that was the main reason. Of course, I would, well, this is a good starting point, I think. Maybe I need help to use a computer or something. I will show you maybe works from the last 3 years, my own works. Let's see, I think I will go upside down, but no, I think I'll go the other way around. I'll start, see, I'm sorry, I'm used to this. currently, I have a solo exhibition at Quadrado Azul in Lisboa. It's open until the end of July. In this exhibition, I'm showing two different bodies of work that relate. They were done at the same time. So it's painting. This is in the first room. These works are 70 by 55 centimeters each. This first room has paintings on canvas. There are landscapes or sort of landscapes. Many of them have this mirrored image, so there is a sense of disorientation or a doubt or a fake. It's something you would disbelieve because you know one is the reflection of, and the other should be real, and they might be inverted. And they have very different paint applications, so they slow you down. It's a very rich texture surface with something that you could be suspicious of. So it invites you to be there. This is the other room. It's a very different process. These paintings they work in relationship to other paintings that are the same size. The ones on the wall, they are opaque. They were painted with screen printing technique, but not with an image. It's just the loose screen has the evenest brush you could get. So it's many different prints on the same surface. And these screens or screens or veils that are stretched to these stainless steel frames have the same technique, but they are printed on both sides with different colors. A bit like downstairs, not all of them have the same technique, but they do have the same characteristic that in your movement you will have different paintings in the same object. So you will never see the painting, the whole painting at once. You'll never be able to get it all in a way. It's like an endless interview to the painting if you so wish. This is another one that's opaque. This is on a very thin cotton. I say this because the different fabrics really alter the way the colors work and the reflection of the surface. So these are some examples. Here it's the show that is downstairs. I'm going to skip this because you have to see it through me. This is a recent installation. It was opened in April. I was invited by Maria do Mar Fazenda to be part of a group exhibition in Évora at Fundação Eugênio de Almeida, and I was given the challenge to work specifically for the Sala, the Inquisition court. So it's a very strong room, and the ceiling is really 500 years old and was a witness to all the trials of Inquisition in that town. And Évora is a town where the Inquisition started in Portugal. So it's a heavy room. It's a very heavy room, and at the same time the title of the exhibition was Tisanas, Infusions for the Impending Future, which was almost the opposite of the legacy of that room. So I think I had no choice. I ended up addressing the room. I did a series of 8 veils that are already volumetrical instead of being straight, as you can see, like they usually do. They take up space. They are becoming more corporeal. They invite you in. Some of them invite you in. Some are closed within themselves, so they invite you, but they won't let you in. They're playing with space in a different way. this is spray on polyester. It's the same fabric as this piece called Thirst, or it's the same fabric as the stainless steel paintings downstairs, those screens. In this installation, you have two pairs of each sort of veil. Although it's only one title, I only know a few words. They work in pairs and they relate to each other in a certain compass together.
Luísa, sorry to interrupt. Just it's interesting for me that Luísa's work comes from prior set of works that were kind of framing time, let's say like this. Luísa has kind of middle paintings that kind of are shots. One of them is actually in the exhibition upstairs as well, that you can see an image from a church by Rudolf Schwarz, which is a modernist church. Very, like, usually people don't really associate it to a cold space Baroque heritage. But then when you see the picture, it's kind of this frame time, it's kind of a frame or a still from a movie, like this. So it's kind of like changing from this idea of showing time to suddenly creating this kind of very immersive painting, this kind of projection of space as well, that kind of suddenly also create they kind of create a new dimension that you can get in, and it's interesting for me that you suddenly, like, gradually started like from moving them from the walls into the space, and they're becoming more, as I say, like corporeal, and kind of inviting you more to deal with this kind of dimension.
Yes, yes. My work can have these very two different scales. It's this tiny 10 by 15 centimeters painting that I've been doing since college. That it's really a one-on-one. Two people are not comfortable seeing the same painting at the same time. It's like the book scale. It's a very intimate scale. It's the scale where our childhoods are all documented. It's postcard scale. It's banal. Could be trash. It's a treasure trash as well. If you will not look at them with your nose, you might miss them. So you have to value them to give that attention. It's nice that they do not impose in any way. As for the big ones, it's not strange to me that like the sensation of crossing the world as an immense painting is very familiar to me. Maybe because I have my opinion, or maybe because of me. But and so I think this crossing of this possible crossing of a place that is an immense painting has more to do with time than with space, from my perspective, because it's almost has like you are like being aware of a gap of adequate attention where I'm able to see, and I will lose it very fast. You cannot hold so attentive for so long. So it's not so much about space; it's about that kind of attention that you can hold. And if your body if your movement rewards you with different visions, then so much the better, and you'll have to go around and experience things new. You know, but it's
part of this relation between space and time. That you can.
Well, it's impossible to separate. So they say, no. I haven't been able yet, but of course I am more. But I'm more acutely aware of time than of space. That I know. But then, of course, I cannot separate them. This was from another exhibition at the Silvestre in Madrid. This piece was called Thin Air. I think it was the only piece of this kind that did not touch the floor. So it was almost in the middle between ceiling and floor. And And you had this other one where you could actually get in and see the whole exhibition from there. These paintings on the wall, they are also made with a completely opened screen printing screen, and it's just the manual degradé that is happening in different supports as well. The first is a very thin cotton, the second painting is on this polyester fabric, and the others are in normal canvases. You can see some are really translucent. And it's the same color, it's the same tones, so they really change with the support. The support gives you something else. And this is a piece, of course, with many of these, called Shade. Then I had this, I made a large piece, an installation. Like I was invited to make an enveloping atmosphere for a permanent collection of a museum about the carnival. So I did workshops with the local communities. It's Carnaval de Torres Vedras, so you can imagine. It's a very, very lively festivity. It was very interesting. I was brought to their garages where they store all the costumes and saw a lot of documentaries. It was a very interesting experience, and I had the opportunity to work very large scale. I'm sorry. Yeah, I only have tiny details because the current exhibition has many, many, many layers of things on top of my work, and it's not very easy to discern. So I have details of this piece that was a great experience. It's 2 pieces, each of them is 4.5 meters by 18 meters, and they are painted on both sides with spray paint and with different fabrics. It was really a great thing to do, but it's hard to show as they are. This project was the first when I showed more than one veil in communication with each other. I was invited by Pada Studios to show in a Delaric factory in Barreiro, and I chose a room that had several obstacles with tires, pallets, sheets. This room is currently used for the fire brigade, for a local shooting club, and for the police for training shooting. So these are remembering or resembling barracas or obstacles, or they suggest a menacing presence on the other side. It's a huge room. It has more than 40 meters length, and I was very drawn to it because usually in exhibition spaces you don't expect anyone else. Or if they do, or when you do, it's a contemplative other. It's someone totally innocuous. And here, you had the suggestion of a real death, a real life threat. But at the same time, because you had tiny bullets on the floor, it was menacing. There was life at stake. But at the same time, this is not slums for real. This is representation. So you're in the realm of representation. You're not offending anyone by playing in this space, because it's also a play space. And it's rare to get such a charged and at the same time free from white space. So I created this battlefield installation. With some files, working with the space. There were more, but this is a short document. And the last project I show you is Stone Veil. This was a solo exhibition that came out from the partnership of 2 residencies. I was doing a residency at Air 351 in Cascais, and they had a link to Artworks no Entulho, which is an art residency in the north of Portugal in the metal industry. So I was allowed to use the facilities, the industrial facilities, and I asked you to do what I usually do to fabrics to metal sheets. So I would crumple them, paint them in this position, and then straighten them as much as possible and continue to paint. So it was a lot of work, logistical work, to get just a surface treating. And they were very generous to align to a very stretch claim, like I did, and I'll show you some results. This is the veil I put in dialogue with these metal sheets. These are aluminium sheets, and this veil is the same as these polyester. It's the thinnest and most transparent polyester I find in the market that has 3 meters height. That's why I choose this one. This is a detail from this veil. And in these works, one of the things that I think is common in my recent works is that you don't really understand immediately what you're looking at, or that you can have some doubts on what it's made of, and that was very present as well. You have the suspension, it's idea of lightness, of almost see-through, things that are completely opaque, or things that are light, but it took tons of strength of a machine to do, so it's not a light scar, but at the same time it's just a painting. So all these visual and material paradoxes are interesting. Please feel free to say whatever. I'll pass to you.
German army, the Nazis, in World War II, in the water, and you kind of have the creature is jumping out of the toxic water to remain did you do for the things on the earth, or this person just disappearing in the final nature, similar to Sosko. So it's me in the water, and it was like my idea was disappearing, but it was so extremely cold that I probably kind of like this, or I kind of looks more like I'm jumping out, but in the end I really liked the idea that you really don't see if I'm kind of an arranged angel fighting, or if I'm kind of just drowning into the water. What you see in the shadow of the see how a little worm, if you can survive inside, but then she saw that suddenly something is growing. And then this was the beginning of the Wardian case, what was extremely important for getting seeds from the colonies to the home land. And because the captains of the ship, they are not gardeners, and so some lands you can transfer by the sea, you need to have the land. So suddenly it was possible, and they also talk about the Wardian turning point. And when they talk about land hunting and all these things. So my audiences are always when I go somewhere, and it's in Italian, I walk, so therefore it's in Palermo, what is on the one, what you see here in the middle there. And actually, this is the one about now, the one from this one. So what I didn't know, but I think it's really interesting, after a few years, it's 10 years now, after a few years, the actually lands dying and just the like pain and more this one is growing. So after a few years, 6-7 years, they kind of getting all the same. I kind of like the idea that that doesn't matter where it comes from, the end they look the same. And when the water is circulating, and because there's something growing, then you have from the photosynthesis, you have air, so they can survive. And it was for me a big experiment, and I did almost 10 by now in cases. Sometimes the exhibition lenses are really bad. The only thing is they need light, so I went for something like that, and the other was thinking, oh, the show is over, we put it in the box and close it. It didn't survive, but more or less, they're doing well, and also some are in collection. So I asked them for taking photos once in a while to see how it develops. On this side, I also want to show this curtain. What I also did in Cool Island is a little bit like diary, and here embroideries of plants I did there, and also this island, they were living on the codfish. So you see the codfish, and also the next thing is the whale. So I said, it's a rock. Oh no, it's weird. So a little bit like a comic. and this island is really fascinating. I could talk hours about it, but they had all the fishing, so people were living on the fish, but then suddenly the fishermen had nothing to do, so they had no jobs anymore, and then the island turned into a tourist place. And now people go there for iceberg, because it's an iceberg alley, and whale gardens. So they go there for iceberg watching and whale watching. And I think iceberg watching, when you think about it, there's a big iceberg, but in the end, it's also it's really strange of where the tourism. So this is the other side of the curtain. We have the moon and the spring iceberg. The moon looking at the same birds of the sea. And so it looks like this. And then on the other side of this lonely cases, I have these watches with drawings. And maybe on the drawing you see already the octopus, or this under the house, and okay, I will be the next living here, and then you in this posh house, it's me, so the water is taking over. Okay, here's another the two same body cases in another exhibition 2 years later. You can see they're much more green, and this exhibition has the title Compost, and it's also can see on the photos, the photo from the park is dead already. So this red park middle, it's flat, going on top and putting these worms in this pine tree. And here the little monsters, they're a little bit bigger, but actually they're quite big. So they go in this pine tree eating it up from the top, and it's kind of composting the tree. And it looks like this. So they come around in the exhibition. And
how big is this?
well, the
Ferrari is
is
like
like
this.
this. The middle one is almost like a €2 piece. So these are the last. So they compost. And then they try to do everything. This part with this wide, pesticides and planting and. But even when you think that the hybrid is not even coming from the sea, it's coming from the Canarian Islands, so it's import land, but still they're saying put the field hybrid is not possible. The problem is also in other countries, like probably same here and Miami and everywhere. So I think we have to live with the consequences of the climate changes. And I would like to go one step further. How does it look like to live in the roots of the capitalism? So this bug or this worm or whatever is taking over the Brotéria. And the first thing we took over the iconic architecture. So this is the Maison Rouge, and this animal is taking over, transforming. And the title of this work is Metamorphosis here, Roots for the Maison Rouge. So they always have this architect of the building. Here there is the architecture of European almost alien-like. On the floor you can see it's like a combination, a little bit of this cocoon and architecture. Yeah, it's from the architecture project. This is the building I'm referring to. And maybe the most famous building on the Brotéria is from Anatole and this Maison Bernard. And this is my work to this. So here you have the human exhibition. So all the beginning, the curtain, everything is round. So it's kind of desk, but like a circle, you can walk and see show you this exhibition, what is also impressed, and that's here. It just ended on Sunday, so it's over now. It just sent me images from the packages. So the title of this exhibition was Concrete Bodies Affinity, and it's on the island Brotéria, and it's in the building from Rossi. And the works, what you see in the front, were inspired by a plant, what is called Melsheimer which grows in the desert of Namibia, by Namibia and Angola. And it's named after the Austrian botanist Friedrich, the first European to describe the plant in 1859. And the vegetation is really special. So it's a plant, but it has just 2 leaves, and it's something in the middle. And this plant is just growing these 2 leaves. They keep on growing. And there, in the end, so in the front you can see these things, they look like tentacles. These are the dead ends already. So now you see that there are more than 2 leaves, but the leaves, there are separated, therefore it looks like more than 1 leaf, but there are actually 2 leaves, and there is a female and a male that also really interesting. And some of the plants, they say they're over 1,000 years, and yeah. So this land was named after this Austrian botanical, but what was very common in the 18th and 19th century, that the plant was taken from the place of Oregon to study and complete the botanical collections, so they are like a botanical garden. And but also Linné, he has this European view, the taxonomy or the nomenclature to give the name. So I'm kind of thinking this is a double claiming of the plant itself, taking it to botanical gardens and also giving it a name, because this plant has had a name before. And so there was one name, it's called Organia, what I think sounds a little bit like organ. Then what is really, really nice, it's Twi La Ken Mi Du, it's another name. And when you, it's like African, and it sounds a little bit Dutch. So when you say Twi La Ken Mi Du, it means 2 leaves never die. When you listen it, then you really realize what it means. And another word is Rumba. So these plants are in the exhibition crawling very slowly in the architecture, in the signature architecture of Aldo Rossi. It was Aldo Rossi Museum, and I started to reading about Aldo Rossi and all the idea. They're kind of interweaving with this architecture. Maybe you can perhaps interact in their own organization principle and their own right to claim, I could say. Also thinking of that these plants are more than 1,000 years, and on the other side our research about modernism and postmodernism is such a short period. I kind of like that the plants are interweaving and whatever they will do to the other process. So now, here you see a little bit more of the, and I stop with this image, yeah.
Thank you, Luísa. Thank you, Luísa. Thank you for giving us a little introduction of your work. Does someone has any question that specifically I want to address to either of the artists regarding the works itself? So for me, it's interesting to see that like the works have two completely different approaches, but you kind of put this show together. And looking at your work, you said that obviously it has very strong objectual characteristic, but also such a strong research that goes around it and that goes with the building up of the narrative of the pieces. What was, like, when jumping into this exhibition, what was your starting point for looking at the challenge at Luísa?
For the exhibition here? Yes, of course I'm interested in architecture. Well, I always say to build it via that. Maybe architecture is the wrong one, so everything what is built. And then I was reading a little bit, and I came to this sound movement, what was after 1974. It was a housing project, and there was a lot of, because I'm a big fan of Caesar, and so because of researching him, actually researching this exhibition on Aldo Rossi, I kind of read the text, and I was reading about the SAL project, and I was thinking, oh, this could be something for this exhibition here. And so I tried to find out more about this SAL movement. What was only a period of 2 years, but I think a fantastic housing project came out of it. I don't know how familiar you are with this.
With SAL. SAL is a social housing project that happened during the 70s and 80s, and involved a great amount of architects and covered basically the entire region of the country. And yeah, basically that stopped after changing.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, I read a little bit about this project, and sometimes it takes lots of reading, a long time to come to the result, because when you see downstairs, when you see some drawings and you see an embroidery, a fabric where I bordered some sentence about this project, what the main sentence is, what will be the legacy of the failed proletarian utopia. So there's always this utopia turning into dystopia. What I had before, what is the point, what I think is really interesting for me, and it was really like policy of self-help, but also after a few years the people say, well, in the daytime we work in the factory making other people rich, and in the evening we have to build our own houses. So this project, I think, was such a fantastic idea, but in the end it didn't work out as well. But still there's some in Porto, even in Lisbon, and also little villages, there are also still some housing project. And to point out the really, so you have to help me, the one in Porto, Barrio da
Bossa.
and the other one, forget to Guaches, from the Quinta del Malagueta. And then also maybe Antas from Pedro and so I looked at them, and when I saw the images, photos, so you Google and then you see a lot of photos, then I saw this guirlanda, what you have, and I kind of thought, okay, they're celebrating. I was reading once a year they come together and celebrate, and I really like that this project, they're connecting one house to the others, and there's the guirlanda, and underneath there's a third space, what is public space to celebrate. So this coming together, we are this community and coming together and celebrate. So wonder what is also,
Yeah.
and then what was also very, very nice, what I was also connected with Lisbon is the tiles. So Brotéria made it possible that I could work in Sintra in the factory. You have to help me again.
You will be.
And I'm saying it, nobody knows what I'm talking about. And so I worked there for 3 weeks, and it was not easy working there because I went, usually artists go there and make a big, they get tiles and go in the back room and make a big painting, whatever. But I really wanted to do something with the tiles, so I went there every day from the morning to the evening and was watching the process of making the tiles. And I more or less picked them from the machines, the tiles, and put them in my hand and mashed them. And then put a hole, and this you have, I don't know if everybody saw the exhibition, but probably, I got this guirlande, so I was disturbing them. There was always a little bit, what is she doing here? Because they're trying that they are very flat and very perfect, and I'm taking it and just mashing them and doing this guirlandes. And what in the end, you never know. I was here and I had this idea. I never know how it will look like because it was really a last minute thing because with the firing and all. So in the end, when I put up the exhibition here with the guirlande, I was all very happy because it almost looks like an animal, a little bit more like a spine. It's like crawling to the exhibition. And maybe I should say something to the color. It's all white. I looked at the website, what kind of shapes they have, what kind of colors they have. And they have 17 different kinds of white. So I decided to use all the whites. And they were also very confused by this because they were, no, usually the artists care so much about the colors and they're making tests, and you just said you take the whites. And I said, well, I also care about the color, but in a different way. So I just say, okay, give me all the whites you have. And also, I was asking them why you have so many whites, and it's also because of Albertus Caesar. He was working there and he did a lot of whites. And so I really like that the circle was closing again with the side project. Yeah.
And it's really funny because you're kind of evoking this public space and also community idea that comes from obviously all the living in the neighborhoods that Albert is designing. Also as one very paradigmatic example of that because it really built a lot of community. And it's funny that you kind of bring up this public space dimension into it, and then you have your work Luísa, which kind of also brings this idea of continuous landscapes and almost like this rhythm that comes with it. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about it.
Sure. I chose to, I knew what Luísa was researching about and her ideas. Well, we have very different processes, and I felt no need to adapt. The sharing space and sharing ideas would be more than enough to make a dialogue, and I'm very happy because I really think the dialogue is established. So I was working, I've been working with these translucent fabrics, as you saw, and I wanted to stretch them so they would be stable in a way. The surface would be stable, they would last longer than the loose ones, and to try these two sides in a different way. So this piece is called Aptia. I owe the title to João Silvério, who wrote a beautiful text for the show at Quadrado Azul and used the idea of apnea. And it's a beautiful idea in this idea of a limited span of attention, that there is this sort of suspension and you try to make a whole pool, no? you see, you eat it all. You eat the world, you absorb everything as much as possible, but then you have a limit and it's done. And in this way, it's a sort of a corridor or a train carriage where you could maybe get in or out at your own pace. They also change, the two colors are different on the two sides. The room was hard to manage and to install, so I decided to make like a second facade to the building. And these grids in the windows are very strong in the gallery, but it was nicer to absolutely accept them than to try and make a turn up. I think it worked very well, and then with your work.
Because
right.
then you also have these layers, then you have the window, and then you have something also distributed things outside, and then you have outside what you're saying with this public space, so you really connect, you're taking the outside inside in a way.
Yes, or this idea that maybe any outside could be inside, this idea of inside out.
Yeah.
I have a lot of works called Inside Out, others are called Threshold. It's always this idea of a frontier or crossing something, trespassing something, being crossed by something, being trespassed by something. I don't know, rubbing yourself with the painting, eating the painting, being painting, something like this. Then on the long room, the large painting, I steal the title from the show. The first thing that was titled was the show, and it's called "It's the Scenery That Moves." But it's almost the opposite of the title. It's a paradox because that large canvas is actually bigger than it's showing. It's folded on top. It's much higher, and this is a canvas. All the veils you saw were painted on top of that canvas. So. All those transparencies, all those sort of ghosts or remnants are from all the veils I've been doing. I don't know, I've done a few in the last years. And so it's a palette that I did not control. Each work does for what it does, and it was to protect the floor where I'm working, if it's a garden or on the street or the pavement. But I was also interested, of course, from the beginning, I chose a thick fabric, a thick canvas that would hold as a work after. You even have a sharp shape of this one downstairs. It's one of the last that was added. And so it's as if, when you say it's the scenery that moves, well, this was the only one that actually did not move. All the others moved, And this one had like an X-ray or residues of the others, and it was I was never composing. It was really just using it as a surface, and I'm very glad it worked as a painting in the end. It was a risk I took, and I did not want to add or edit in that way to get it nicer. No, it was just a functional thing already with something has a possibility. And I'm very glad with the piece. And then on the other side, I placed one of these tiny paintings. It's called Everything. It's a painting that comes, the image is from a personal archive of a trip to Arnhem. This is a church in Arnhem near Cologne by Rudolf Barthes called Corpus Christi. It's a modernist church, it's very well known. I was really glad that Joan Norton told me the church before I told anyone else. He said, "This is this church." Thank you. Because many people don't really read the space or don't understand the painting. I don't mind at all. If I wanted to make it noticeable, I would have made it different. But so I see the paintings together as a dialogue of two sides of the same coin. Of painting.
And Isa was talking like how you bring up the light into the room again. So it's kind of, it's something that it's also very present in this works of the canvas, that it's kind of like you kind of deal with light, like they are very, like the transparency of it also influences your reading of the architecture and it deals with it, but it's kind of like the light is very present and the way you kind of in Belvedere when you kind of do this fabric that's very translucent, very kind of a fog that emerges in the middle of the room, and it kind of difficult the reading between pieces, and it's kind of like, are they suddenly part of the fabric or not, or are they objects on the other side? So it kind of merges a lot of these dimensions into it. But you always work as the kind of like beams of light being reflected from some kind of crystal or something. And it's like bringing the light at the same time. Like it's interesting how you kind of choose to reframe them again, or kind of like find a fixed structure for this very light, very.
Yes, I was also interested in that opposing has a body, has an object, but it's the opposite. No, it's a very fragile thing, and it's and the fabric is really stretched, so it's in a big tension for a fragile thing, and then you have stainless steel that should not rot and should overcome us all for a long time, and so should the fabric if it is well treated. But this fragility and maybe brutality together, I think they also worked. The shapes of them. I was for 4 or 5 years. I've been looking at train windows and enjoying them. More like time spaces, time travel spaces than actually paisagem or landscape or travel, or even for screens. Projection screens, that sort of place where an image, where you think an image could belong, you know, the nature of an image. Are those all images? They're so different. You know, where is the frontier? Where does it start to be a painting or to be? I had a friend, an artist friend, who said, "Oh, they're really great because they're paintings and they're sculptures at the same time." I was very intrigued. For me, it's a surprise, but they are a whole object, and they're close, and it's yeah, it's interesting.
And it's also interesting that you both felt the need to bring up architectural references in a very clear way into the exhibition. So it's obviously like it's a scenario that moves. It has this kind of cinematic, imagetic to it as well. That's interesting stuff. I don't know, does anybody wants to add something to the discussion that they want to share opinions with?
I just wanted to ask Luísa a question. Thank you for your presentation. It was really, really interesting. I was wondering, because I've known you for some time, in the beginning your artworks were quite small and controlled and also figurative. And now you have these huge, very abstract paintings, and also it looks like you've opened yourself up much more to accidents and to not controlling what happens so much. I mean, I was thinking about how can you paint with spray when you can't even mix colors, so you always have to see the result. You can't really, I'm not sure how you plan the work. So the question is, what happened? How did you make that leap from smaller figurative controlled paintings to these like big atmospheres, and what happened?
I still do the small figures, but I do them at the same time. I think I think it came from the sheer pleasure of painting and trying to understand what was going on. You know, why does this color with this? What does this color do with this surface? What if it's loose pigment instead of the pigments mounted on this medium, resinous medium with oil? What if it's with acrylic? What if I make it myself? What if I make it on glass? What if the surface is different? It was just sheer pleasure and wonder of how things were going. It's endless, I think. It's curiosity. Things not going the way you want, so you go after them again from a different side. Also, they do really different things. I think for the first years, I remember being in the studio and having very good artist friends tell me that as well, that the way I was installing my figurative work sometimes was working against the works. And that sometimes figurative works could lose to the space. Because many times, really, what you can have paintings, but you have the exhibition as a medium. And I had to address that. I was either always losing out when I was setting up, or I had to take over that shit as well and deal with it in a different way. So it would be more intentional. Some people said, look, things in the studio are much more interesting, and then there's a stiffness, or there is a lack of dialogue. I think that really irritated me a lot. And I said, no, this is really not the way to think. How can I go around, have my sensibility, have my work, not just as spatial design or as architecture, exhibition architecture. How can I make my work deal with this? You know, I think that great irritation helped me out a lot.
Anyone else? If not, so I think we can finish. Thank you all. Thank you.
It's not a question, it's just comments.
That's also fine. We can talk from that.
I think it was Luísa who invited Isa because you knew her work.
Yes.
And in the exhibition, I didn't get the connection, but now seeing Isa's work, it was very interesting to see two approaches with architectural references, painted fabric, so I understood better your immediate attraction for Isa's work, which was interesting, and that's it. And a very short practical question: Isa, you went to the ceramic fabric, ceramic factory, and you said they could dispose several whites.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Was powder? Was
Powder.
liquids? Was
Well, usually sometimes they're powder, sometimes they're liquid, but usually the beginning is a powder and then you're adding water, so it's a little bit like it's glaze, what is glass in a way.
so you asked them to prepare you the 17?
No, they have them in the program for their, when they're selling, when you want to buy a bathroom and you want to buy tiles, then they give you a menu and they say, we have these 17 different wines, choose one.
And you chose all.
And I choose all. So this is, or they have also different green and different reds, or they're mixing it. Well, you can then really mix it, there's usually they're from the nature, Cooper carbonate makes it turquoise, or red iron makes it brown, but the white it's white. But there's some a little bit of wood here, what makes it light green. So it's all a little bit of chemistry thing, the glaze. And when you go to this website of this factory, because you want to buy some tiles for your house, then you have different shapes and you have different colors. So there's kind of like a menu, saying these are all the shapes we have. When you come down the stairs, there's this necklace around this line, and you see saw the door.
may, another comment in another sense. I appreciated very much in that Aldo Rossi museum, you made some models on ceramics about his buildings and connecting those models of architecture with the plants from Angola or from Namibia, those so different universes, a postmodern, very sophisticated European architect with an idea of utopia. Aldo Rossi is a highly utopious architect. His buildings are, well, metaphysical, let's say. And then introducing these plants like a dystopia, as you said, it was a very interesting connection of different forms from different worlds, connecting together in a sense of I don't know, something that's very contemporary, something that is attacking our cities. I don't know if that plant is known as a carnivore plant.
But
it's not carnivore.
No, but after this exhibition, a man came and recommended me a book. What is the name of this book? It's like a science fiction. It's also movie, very bad trash movie. By the way, I love very bad trash movies. And this was a fantastic movie, and it was about a plant, what has also the male and female. So really similar to this movie chain. Also looks a little bit similar, and it's and also this they have this. It's also playing in the 70s, and this land they have it in the building because it's almost dangerous. It's a cannibal land. It's killing people, but they need this land to have its new oil. Like science fiction, everything is over, and they're having this land for the energy. So it's, and then somebody forgot to close the door, so this land they can also move. They look very similar, and I'm sure this movie maker or the book was thinking of this land, and this land is going and killing all the people and taking over the world. But or maybe you know also the movie where with Keith Sutherland, it's also where also every human being is turning over into a plant. And I should write down things like this. There's so many fantastic movies, almost a little bit similar.
Alien.
Yeah, I'm also sometimes surprised by myself how, in the end, I'm connecting Aldo Rossi with this plant. But when I have an exhibition, where this was just the first room, this exhibition has 4 more rooms, but there was no time showing this. But for me, it's always very important that there is a red line to an exhibition, that it's all connected. In the end, that it's kind of storytelling in a way, and then in the end, it's important for me that it makes sense in some strange way. But for me, it's important that I would say that Aldo Rossi and the picture have something to do with each other.